for me, but yeah, that's the reason for the increased use of contractors.
It was the reason for the explosion after 9/11. All right, because the workforce had been reduced
By 25%.
by 25%, and so the only way you can pull that accordion out very quickly is to hire contractors. Now I become director in 2006. It is just prudent to say, well, let's go back and check our homework here as to how we expanded with contractors and where were the inefficiencies, and that's what we did in 2007.
It's happened, and you pointed this out over and over again in our history. There's been contractions and there's been huge expansions under the covert action program. Under the contractions, the other thing that happens, you have a hiring freeze, however it may be cast. And you have what are bubbles that are then created in terms of leadership, and it has a spin-off effect 15, 20 years later. So the Carter, and when I say Carter, it was really a broad-based decision to cut back the budget, has an impact 20 years later in terms of missing generations of officers.
This is more like a flavor thing rather than a syllogism, all right? But if I told you that more than half the agency workforce has been hired since 9/11, okay, it gives you some sense as to the experience level. It might suggest to you why we have a pretty open mind about hiring retirees as contractors to come back and try to leaven that fairly inexperienced workforce.
Because they're green.
Yeah. Hey, Joby.
It's Joby Warwick from the Washington Post. Just for General Hayden, a follow-up on the op-ed today. Just reading between the lines on one of the points you raised. Do you think that the IG report will ultimately show on balance that the program was effective in getting good information from detainees, and in a sense, it was, whatever you could say critical of the program, that it actually it worked? It's my memory, Joby, that there are about a half a dozen paragraphs in there that talk about the success of the program, and they go beyond, you know, one section of the IG report was quoted in the OLC memos, and that section talked about no imminent attacks being stopped, and that's kind of become the end of term grade for the entire program, because nothing else was available. If my memory is correct, and if it's not been redacted, okay, both have to be true, there are going to be a half a dozen paragraphs in there that actually talk about the significance of the program in terms of our learning about the basic infrastructure of al-Qaeda and then enabling the agency counterattack against both the infrastructure and the leadership of al-Qaeda. And so in that sense, although I would, you know, if you asked me to vote, I would say no, I don't want the report released. In that sense, not unlike the release of the first memos, it does bring a bit more balance to the discussion. As I pointed out to some folks I've talked about, when the 13 techniques were first put out there, again, I strongly oppose that, but I can't tell you the number of folks said there must have been more. And I said, no, there's not. I believe the release on Monday will also include the 2007 memo from Steve Bradbury, which was the memo on which I relied as director. And you'll see a much narrowed field of techniques available too, which again may bring some balance into the public discourse. But on balance, as you know, I push back on the overall release.
Yes, for Director Hayden, my name is Louis Martinez with ABC. Going back to your earlier comments about the to Gene's question, you said that you were more concerned or more troubled by the activities of the last 6 weeks than... No. I learned more of the details of what happened prior to my time as director in the last 6 weeks than I did during my time as director. Thank you for clarifying. Can I ask you then also on this topic, do you believe that the political discourse on the Hill over the last couple of months since this program is revealed has taken a new level and warrants going to where it's gone right now? When I first was told that Director Pettit had gone up there and briefed, my first response was, what are you talking about? What program is this? And then when I went in and checked out and found out a few more details as to what had been briefed, my response was, why are you briefing this program? Okay, now, keep in mind, I'm focused on the program I knew. You know, everyone talks about this 7.5-year program. Again, I would